You're listening to the Valley Labor Report with David Story and Jacob Morrison.
So speaking of people trying to divide folks up, I wanted to talk about that Tuberville ad.
Which one? I mean, good Lord, man, I've been getting
mail
the
one that was in the Courier. The one that was in the Courier.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the one that Brother Jeb shared with us. Man, that. Woo.
And it looks like it's gotten around.
Insanity.
The president of the Nashville CLC sent me that picture. Like she sent me, Jim Williams down in Anniston shared it, and he must have got that from somebody who got it from Jeb. But I was surprised when the Nashville Labor Council president messaged me last night.
I put it on Facebook, and yesterday when I got up, it had 63 shares yesterday.
Yeah.
So
it's gotten around. But the ad was taken out in a bunch of local newspapers that said, "Who will stand up to big labor?
Big labor.
Who's going to stand up to working people? Who's going to be the person that fights against workers if you put them in the Senate? Who's going to be the person that fights against higher wages and better working conditions?" Tuberville wants you to know that the person who's going to fight against big labor, who's going to fight against working people is him. He wants you to know that he hates labor. That's what this ad said. This ad
in the Shoals of all places.
In the Shoals. Can you believe that?
Let me tell you.
Man.
If you're not familiar with the Shoals area and the deep history of labor in the Shoals, IBEW has been over there over 100 years. I'm talking about 100 years. There are 22 independent labor unions in the Shoals. This is what you call not knowing your target area.
Yeah.
I mean, who in their right mind? But honestly, I don't think that was put in by Tuberville, but I'm sure he approved the ad. You know, Chris Brooks, who was on the show, one of our earlier shows, thought that it may have been put in by the National Right to Work organization. And that's the problem with all this dark money is you don't know who's putting them in. There's money coming from everywhere in this race to do everything they can to smear Doug Jones.
Yeah, well, listen at this. He just lies. They just
flat out lie.
They just lie in the article. They say, or in the ad, they say union chieftains funnel this hard-earned money, talking about dues dollars, into campaigns, talking about dues dollars and agency fees from non-union members that are paid to unions for the cost of representation. Union chieftains funnel this hard-earned money into campaigns of tax and spend politicians. No, they don't.
Yeah.
No, they don't. That is illegal. You can't do that. You would be thrown under the jail for doing that.
Yeah.
David is he was Secretary Treasurer for the State Council of Machinists. I'm Secretary Treasurer for the Labor Council here in this area. We are like literally stewards of dues dollars from union members. We do not spend dues money on elections, on campaign. It doesn't happen. That's a lie. He's lying.
But it sounds good, Jacob. It sounds good, and this is the reason. This is the division there. They love to throw that division in there to make people think, and that is the reason why you have so many people on the right attacking unions, because they think these union dollars are going to campaigns that are predominantly Democrat. Yes, union members predominantly support Democratic candidates. It's because Democratic candidates predominantly support unions. They predominantly put in place good legislation that helps workers, as opposed to what we've been seeing in the last 4 years.
Right.
We talked about it last week.
Yes.
All of the legislation, all of the appointments that has killed union labor, not just union labor, but workers in general. What did you say? Over 10,000 COVID complaints in the last 8 months.
and 100 of them were inspected.
Yeah.
12 citations issued.
So it's a good lie.
Yeah.
It's a good lie.
And then in this ad, they talk about forced unionism, which is another just absurd thing, because what they're talking about is they're talking about so-called right to work laws, and how Donald Trump and Tommy Tuberville support so-called right to work laws, which all that is, a right to work law. All that is the big government getting into private contract negotiations between workers and the employer and telling them what they can and cannot put in their employment contract. That's what it is.
It's the exact same thing they campaign on consistently as big government intervention.
It's the government dictating the terms of private employment contracts.
Yep.
And you can't even force, even in non-right to work states, in collective bargaining states, you cannot you still can't have as a condition of employment that non-union members pay dues. They can be, as a condition of employment, pay agency fees, which are less than dues, which go to the cost of directly to the cost of representation and
contract negotiations.
And contract negotiations. Yeah. And then he talks about how Tommy Tuberville supports the Freedom from Union Violence Act.
Yeah, it's insanity.
Union violence.
Yeah.
Union violence.
How many people have you been violent against in the union, Jacob?
I have never been violent against anyone as a member of the union. But you know who has had violence inflicted on them? Union members.
Yeah.
By cops, by bosses, by Pinkertons, by scabs.
Yeah.
That's who the violence is done against, and you don't see any union members calling for. And what the Freedom from Union Violence Act does is it makes violence in support of unionism like a federal hate crime or something. Like, violence in support of unionism is still violence, and it would still be punished. They just want to tack more onto it. That's all it does. Because violence is still illegal, right? And I mean, it's absurd the things that they're focusing on. Like, in the middle of a pandemic, when we've got...
Not they. Let's be clear here.
Tuberville.
It's absurd the things that Tuberville, Tommy Tuberville, is focusing on.
In the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of a recession, when people have lost their unemployment stimulus, when people don't have work to go back to, he's talking about freedom from union violence. Give me a break. Give me a break.
Yeah. What do you expect? Yeah. I have come to expect this out of these types of people. Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate.
It's loony. If you want to talk to us, 1-866-494-9866 is the number. 1-866-494-WVNN.
And the biggest problem that you get with this is the fact that who has Tuberville talked to?
Nobody.
He puts out all of this stuff, but yet he won't call into our show. He will not do an interview anywhere. He runs. He hides from every media. He hides from his proposed constituents. He don't want to answer any questions. I mean, you have to ask yourself, what's going on? In one of the biggest elections in the state of Alabama right now, I would say the biggest election in the last 4 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The candidate refuses to answer questions from his wannabe constituents. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Where's he at? Yeah. He's in Florida, I guess. Yeah. He's at his house in Florida, vacationing.
Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate your time. If you want to see what we're up to throughout the week and get our snide quips about the news of the day, then you should follow us on social media. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/Valley Labor Report. We're on Twitter at Labor Reporters. I'm on Twitter at JacobM_AL. David is on Twitter at Radical Unionist. That's spelled RADICL Unionist. If you missed part of the show and want to go back and watch it later, search YouTube for The Valley Labor Report and subscribe to our channel. You can go back and watch the full show there, and we also clip segments throughout the week. And we also upload the program on more than 11 different podcasting apps. So you can see if we're on your listening platform of choice. You can go to The Valley Labor Report. www.transistor.fm/subscribe. And if you appreciate our work and want to help us stay on the air, then consider throwing us a couple dollars a month on patreon.com/The Valley Labor Report.